Thank you so much for being with us today. Lovely to see all the names of all the wonderful partners joining us. We wanted to use this month's webinar and the opportunity to speak with you all about specifically something that might appear at first to be a little boring because it's about data and publication and open link data, but actually is really critical for where we are right now in the skills first moment. So I know you're all hearing a ton around not only competency-based education, but skills first hiring, skills-based hiring and talent management. And so many of the possibilities of that movement rely on us having incredibly transparent, open data about high quality competencies that so many of you all help create for the ecosystem. So we wanted to highlight the partnership that C-BEN has with our amazing friends at Credential Engine. We wanted to show you a little bit about how the whole system works, but then spend the majority of our time today on success stories so that you can see how competency publication. Thank you. We've got a ton of success stories about how competency publication and open link data are enabling the next generation and like vision of the skills first moment, with a ton of folks doing the work that you all are probably familiar with that we want to give you a little bit more detail on. So a little bit about our partnership and why it formed. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to show you exactly how the registry works, and we're going to dive into success stories. We'd love to hear questions or comments from all of you throughout. You should feel welcome to put them in the chat, and we'll also try and pause periodically to pose a question to you all, or to just make sure that all of your questions are being answered as we go. And yeah, and again, we're off and running, and thank you so much for being here. Okay, so just a reminder, I'm Emily Shyness. I'm with C-BEN, and I'm the Senior Director of Skills Systems. So the big thing that I work on is really trying to connect up our systems of higher education, our systems of talent management and hiring, our systems of government, state agencies, workforce boards, so that everyone can be speaking in the language of competencies, and data can move around these ecosystems in a way that is secure, but also open. So that's like my big North Star here in my work at C-BEN, and I'm really privileged to work with Jeff at Credential Engine. Jeff, do you want to do a quick intro, and then I'll talk about the partnership?
Yeah, happy to, Emily. Thank you. And hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Gran. I work with Credential Engine as our Credential Solutions lead. My role involves a lot of early stage use case development. A variety of people are using linked open data to solve a suite of different problems. And some of those we'll highlight today relative to competencies. But before this gig, I used to work at Capella University in the Twin Cities and involved in competency-based education there. So recognizing a lot of the challenges credential issuers face in managing competency data and getting it to operate and work with all the tools and systems you're invariably using. So glad to be with you.
Awesome. So I wanted to, just before we dive in, speak a little bit about the partnership between C-BEN and and Credential Engine, because we found a really valuable piece of complementarity here. So Credential Engine is supporting this large-scale registry of credentials all across the country and the world, and has built within the language that supports that registry the ability to publish competencies inside those credentials and within an understandable programming language and framework. And C-BEN, as we've always been, is really dedicated to the creation of competencies, but also the quality behind the competencies that back up the competency-based education that's happening all over the place. Certainly, we want to continue to support all of our partners in higher ed, some of whom are here with us today, as they build out competency-based education programs, but also acknowledging how many other credentials that are built upon competencies exist throughout our economy and throughout our ecosystem, from training providers, from workplaces, from employers, et cetera, et cetera. So we found a way to really come together to say, let's make sure that all of these amazing competencies, so many of them of such high quality, are finding a way to get into that credential registry in that language that allows it to be open data, so that all of these systems that learners or job seekers can use to compare credentials, that employers can use to actually validate the skills of candidates they're looking at, all these different use cases are powered by not only a transparent system, but a system that is also very comprehensive. So we're working to get as many of our partners across this entire ecosystem to make sure their credentials are part of the Credential Engine registry, but also to take advantage of the new opportunity, or the newer opportunity, to make sure that your publicly available competencies are part of the credentials that are in the credential registry, and sort of finding that good confluence moment. Essentially, and at the end of the day, we really want to highlight that getting your competencies published, especially to this true registry of record, allows and enables all of the tools, many of them AI based, but the internet of tools that allows your data to have its rightful place in the ecosystem. So often we talk to folks who are thinking about their competencies or their learning outcomes, or their training information as sort of like secret or proprietary. And what we're trying to do is open up those doors so that what's actually being pulled into all of these tools and comparisons accurately represents the really high quality work in competency-based education that so many of the folks on this call and throughout our community are doing every day, so that folks trying to navigate these ecosystems have accurate, up-to-date data that reflects the quality that they can expect when they interact with your institutions. So we're really excited to partner. I'm going to toss it over to Jeff to give you a little bit more of a tech-enabled and smart description of how the registry does this work of transparency balanced with security.
It's great. Thanks, Emily. It's such a great call to action there. And before we get into the registry proper and the work of my organization, Credential Engine, I think it's helpful to recognize the context within which this work is moving forward. And our organization for the last 7 years has been doing our own research to just identify the size of the credentialing market. And to date, although this is a couple years old now, we've found that there's over 1 million credentials being offered in America. When you think about all the different types of degree programs, all the different types of certificates, certifications, licenses, micro-credentials, badges, there's a lot of different types of credentials, and there's a lot of credential issuers, and there's a lot of different programs that support those credentials. And so that's fantastic in many ways. There's a lot of opportunity for people to advance their career, but it's also a challenge. And the challenge is that it's very difficult to make sense of how these credentials relate to each other, how they're similar, how they're different. If you've ever gone to your local library and walked down the aisle for education books, you'll see some very large books on the shelf for colleges. They're the Peterson's Guide to College. They're very thick. There is no other shelf in the library with a listing of all of the offerings for other products, other services. It's something unique, and it's a challenge for the education sector. And so what we're attempting to do is get our hands collectively around that using linked open data solutions. And this slide here just kind of emphasizes the challenge for the learner. I mean, they're the ones walking into the library, checking out those books, trying to figure out which program's right for me. But that it's not only at the discovery, it's not only at the entry point, it's also after the fact, after I've obtained a credential, um, how is this different? What are the skills and competencies that I acquired? And to what extent can a learner articulate that kind of metacognitive awareness in an interview for a job? And so that's where I think competencies have a unique opportunity here to help with this challenge. So on the next slide, I like to kind of start with this information from something you already know, your phone. You know, if you've traveled, you've recognized how useful it is to have Google Maps. And on top of Google Maps and within it are very useful, detailed bits and pieces of information. This slide emphasizes hotels. The hotel industry is very competitive, and yet they have all agreed to document their rooms, the price of their rooms, the amenities, the location, the availability, using a common language. And in so doing, they've enabled all travelers to access very helpful information. It reduces the barriers to um, to get a hotel room, to find a hotel room that's right for you. Um, we don't yet have that kind of capability in the education training ecosystems, but Credential Engine's attempting to pursue this same approach using linked open data solutions, which we'll tell you more about. Um, so great. Here on this slide, I think I want to emphasize two pieces of information that everyone should know about our work. One is that we rely on what we call the credential transparency description language. It's a living language. There are over 1,100 terms defined within it. And it is used to describe all the different pieces of information that are important to know about not only credentials, but certainly credentials, but courses, programs, transfer, competencies, outcomes, pathways. There's a rich set of information that learners want to know about credential offerings. And that's what the language enables. It's open source, it's free to use, it's continually updated and expanding through a governance process that Credential Engine manages with many different stakeholders. The other piece is that, you know, most credential issuers don't speak CTDL. They don't speak that language. So we built a registry, and this is a tool that's available to all credential issuers to post information about their offering to the internet, and it will use that language. It will represent all of that information you're sharing in CTDL. The benefit there being is, as Emily mentioned, you know, these AI tools in particular need structured information to make sense of what all the what's being said about these credential offerings. We have lots of different ways you can add information to the credential registry. It can be as simple as filling out an online form, but we also support the bulk upload of spreadsheets and API integrations with, you know, your tech stack, a variety of products. Some products have APIs already that let you access credential information. Sometimes there are institutions that have institutional research staff who can write a query and pull that information together. So there's a variety of ways this information can come together and get published into the registry. Let me take you through this example here where you can see this linking in action. I'll start with the organization on the left there. This is Santa Rose Junior College. You know it's a credential organization because it has this type attribute affiliated with the name of the institution. And you can see that there's a line that says accredited by. It tells you this organization is accredited by a quality assurance organization, this American Dental Association Commission. These little links right here, this graph alone, very rich information that might be represented in 100 different ways in text, in books. But because these are attributes of the registry in CTDL, you can make sense of them very quickly. Now, the thing to know, I'm just going to traverse this a little bit, is that this organization is not only accredited, they also offer a certificate program on dental assisting. And to earn that certificate, they have these requirements. One is this program down below, a learning opportunity profile that teaches particular competencies. And that competency is also required to obtain that certificate. So here, this one competency, you can read the text there, is connected. If you know, one, you can go down the path I just made, but because it's a graph and it's all linked data, you can see, well, what are the competencies that institutions who are accredited by this organization tend to offer? Or, you know, what for dental assisting certificate programs, what are the competencies that they require? How are they the same? How are they different from one another? All of that inference making that is possible using AI, using linked open data. And so that's it's kind of a demonstration. You'd have to imagine then not just one organization, but thousands of organizations and a million credentials, all with this kind of rich metadata structure available to the public. So here, I think we'll just kind of step back and think about the value proposition for credential organizations. Emily, did we say you were going to kind of help us through
Yeah,
this?
I'm happy to quickly walk through. So, stepping back from the actual architecture behind the credential registry, let's take a little bit of a moment to say why, right? Why, even if we've made every effort to make this an easy upload process, why go through that exercise to make this data from a credential perspective all the way down to a competency perspective really open? The big message, if you take nothing else away from today's webinar, that we really want you to know is because it enables other tools to be using up-to-date and accurate information about credentials that you have some association with. But specifically, all these different actors within our system have a way to have a value proposition and a reason to get that data into the registry so that it can be used in all these efficient ways, and that all the ways that it's being used regardless across the internet are using accurate, up-to-date information that you approve and that you understand. So being the true and real source of data about your credentials, your programs, and the competencies within those programs, making informed decisions when comparing credentials and comparing competencies. From an accreditation perspective, having sources of truth to monitor outcomes, to verify quality procedures. Also, in the research it takes to build credentials, to update credentials, to keep credentials and competencies aligned with the field and with career advancement, having true, comprehensive and open sources of data to do that market research and that comparison can be incredibly valuable. And then also state agencies, again, sources of truth and public records. We're going to go into a little bit of that with our success stories, and employers, right? There's probably not a world where employers, probably some of you on this call are included in this category. There's probably not a world where employers are going to look at every credential on every resume they get for an open position, but they should always and completely have the ability to essentially double click on a credential that someone holds and go find out what is inside that credential. Where does it come from? And most importantly, what are the competencies that have been verified and validated by the holder of that credential that might or might not prepare them for the job that they're applying to do, and might or might not verify the skills that they're building and demonstrating while on the job as well. So the more comprehensive and the more open and usable the registry is, the better for everyone. And we really want to drive home the point that it takes all of us to build the registry so that it's right, so that it creates these incredible use cases for all of the data that can be pulled from the registry as that open link data, so that that Google map of competencies is on a foundation of data that we've all created and that we know to be true. Jeff, how'd I do? Anything you'd add before we dive into success stories?
You did fantastic, as always, Emily. Well done. So yeah, I think
Awesome.
what I'd like to do is just put a little more meat on it. But before we get to that, let's take a moment and just see if everyone is with us so far. Are there any kind of questions? Even very basic questions are totally fine. I just want to make sure everyone understands where we're at, what we're talking about here so far.
And please feel free, you can put questions in the chat, but also please feel free to come off mute if you have anything you'd like to discuss before we dig in.
Okay, well, very good. And don't let me talking stop you from typing in a question if you have one and or raising your hand. Um, one of our primary goals here is to raise awareness about this opportunity, and the best way to do that is to just directly address the questions you have about the work. So um, let me share with you a set of success stories here that I think help put a little more meat on why this one step of publishing competencies can have so many different kinds of benefits for different stakeholders at different points in time. And so one thing to know is just back on that last slide, Emily, let me highlight though, overall, that we have made some great progress in general through our partnership. One is having a defined workflow that enables credential issuers to publish their credentials with almost no technical blockers in place. I think one of the blockers institutions have had in the past is that they have competency information in one place, and it's very difficult for them to manage that information and get it into another place. And so one of the innovations our partnership has brought forward are new tools. We have an extra tool, a CTDL extra tool we'll talk more about in another webinar that enables institutions to assemble all that information into a spreadsheet that can be uploaded to the registry. And so that's an accomplishment, and it's produced a lot of results. I think when we started this partnership, I don't know if we had 100,000 competencies in the registry, and then now it's very close to 200,000. So it's scaling up. It's the largest collection of competencies you'll find in the world, and that can be useful information for a variety of purposes. I encourage you to check it out. Okay, so our next slide, we kind of get started with just the basic use case, which is how do I manage the competencies I have? And this slide just brings forward C-BEN's work on that. So Emily, would you mind just maybe sharing how C-BEN is managing competencies with the registry?
Yeah, so for everyone on this call, if you're a member of C-BEN and a friend of C-BEN, I'm sure you've heard us talk about our new offering, Competent U, which is a competency-based education credential that is also about building competency-based education programs. But as we were looking at that, we wanted to make sure that the competencies inherent in those credentials did not like stay isolated in spreadsheets, and even further, we're also not siloed in like the platform that we use to actually educate people through this course offering. So we wanted to make sure that these competencies were part of the registry. This was a pretty simple process because this is already publicly available competencies to move all of this information quite directly into the Credential Engine registry so that we can see the actual competencies and how they relate to the different like courses or modules within the actual credential, and then up to the credential itself. And because this is now within the credential registry, this is something we can manage here or in the place where the information is being pulled from, so that it all stays up to date and true without us having to version control a specific spreadsheet on our end.
Yeah, that's great, Emily. And I mean, in my experience, I've just talked with a lot of credential issuing organizations, and I think this is like the most immediate value of publishing is that you can get out of having to be reliant on a particular email thread, a particular way of documenting Word documents or PDFs. You can have a consistent way to manage all of your competency information using the credential registry. It's a free service, so why not do it? So that's fantastic. Um, I'm sure I was thinking there's probably five other things I could say about that, but let's go on to the next one because I think people have heard about the value of publishing to the registry. Um, what you may have not realized is that doing so unlocks a lot of potential outside the institution as well. In this example, I pulled forward example of some legislation in the state of Indiana for the Indiana College Core. It's statewide articulation agreements that let students in high school earn college credit for particular college courses. And just last year, the Senate Act 8 had language in it that specified an expectation of publishing to the public student learning objectives for each of those courses. Okay. Now that's not unreasonable. There are other requirements in other states that expect that kind of transparency. But for some institutions, that can be a challenge. It's opening up a lot of PDF documents or logging into the learning management system and copy pasting out these statements from courses into another spreadsheet and having someone check it and send it. Um, Here with Ivy Tech, they've benefited from publishing their entire course catalog for 2023, 24, 24, 25 to the registry. And that has enabled them to fulfill a request like this through a simple link or a set of links. You know, like that information is already identified, parsed, published, connected, and can be used with any institution or any for any report that's needed. There are a variety of other uses besides just state reporting, but sometimes compliance with reporting expectations is something institutional leaders can understand in a different way than innovative use cases. So I highlighted that here. Happy to talk more about it, but I suspect every credential issuer has a catalog of information, and inside those catalogs often may be course learning objectives that could benefit from this kind of publication pattern. Happy to talk more about that too. Um, yeah, so the numbers speak for themselves there with 29,000 some CTIDs published from one institution. It's a lot of information to keep track of. Let's look at the next example here. This is a different one from Parchment. Parchment is a digital credential organization, and they've built an integration with the registry that lets their tool pull forward the information that's been published to the registry from the institution into their product and then into the digital diplomas that are offered to students when they graduate. So it's round tripping this information. It makes it more efficient for the institution. You have one publishing activity that enables multiple tools to use the same information for multiple purposes. And with the competencies in particular, that information is often very useful for anyone that the learner is sharing their digital diploma with. They could, as Emily was saying, they could double click on that diploma and see, oh, these are the skills, these are the competencies we are looking for. And so, you know, if you're an institution that is already using Parchment, there just raise awareness that you could have them integrate your competency information, your credential information with their award product, similar to how this is represented here. So, um, yeah, it's another benefit of being able to manage competency information in the registry. Let's see here. So a slightly different but related use case that we wanted to highlight are digital wallets. If you haven't heard of this, it's analogous to like how your boarding pass appears on your phone, in a wallet. Um, Very useful, but these digital wallets can often do many other things besides just proving that you have the credentials that you say. They can also pull forward information from the registry about what those credentials mean, including the competencies that the institution articulated in the registry for those credentials. In this scenario, with the digital wallet, the use case is around connecting the learner um, with a skills profile that lets them fully articulate across multiple credential issuers the skills that they have, some of which are verified because the chain of custody is well understood and from source to wallet, some that are self-attested, and that's fine too. But it's a set of skills that are then connected to career pathways, including live job opportunities in their area. A lot of that matching, this is an example where AI has been very helpful because what we're talking about are very large data sets on the education credentialing side and the workforce side, and to what extent can matches be inferred in a dynamic real-time scenario for particular people. And so uh, this uh, this example, the IQ4 Achievement Wallet, um, is a great instance of that. I just pulled a shot of my own skill profile forward to give you a sense of what the UI looks like, but the back end, if I could make data more exciting, would be even more impressive. So this is just the Achievement Wallet is a product that Western Governors University has been innovative with. We have a success story on our website that details how that wallet scenario has developed for them. And so I'll just refer you to that if you're interested in learning more. Um, let's see here. So just more success stories. Another use case that the competencies connect with is from the NIST organization. It's a federal organization around standards. In particular, there's a group that the acronym is NICE. They have a framework for the cybersecurity workforce. And so it's broader than just cybersecurity roles, roles that are like it's broader than just like being a cybersecurity analyst. It's all kinds of people who do work that intersect with cybersecurity scenarios. And so in that sense, the framework is very large. It entails multiple work roles, and inside each of those work roles are a set of tasks, and those tasks require different knowledge and different skills to successfully demonstrate those tasks. Okay, so you kind of get a sense it's a complicated hierarchy that's usefully complicated. The challenge, though, is that many times it's unclear for the credential issuer, how do my skills and competencies relate to this framework that has tens of thousands of rows and page intersections? How's all that complexity relate to my degree program? Well, the registry enables you to show how those offerings and how your competencies and skills connect to the NICE framework. And that's beneficial for credential issuers who want to show that their programming is relevant to cybersecurity pathways for sure. But it's also beneficial to the NIST organization, the federal government, because they can use the graph in the reverse order and find which credential providers are providing programming around the work roles that we think are high priority in the future, right? So it's a bidirectional, useful communication mechanism between credential providers and, in this case, the framework authors, the federal government. So, uh, variety of ways that's being used. One here, I'll just highlight, are the idea of pathways themselves. Pathways are often, it's a huge part of our educational ecosystem. There are Perkins 5 grants, federal government to states to create pathways. Um, Many of those pathways are articulated in poster-like documents, things that sit on a wall, right? And that's a start, but it doesn't connect with the apps and the tools that students are using in high school. If I'm in high school, I'm trying to plan out my career, I've got options. How do I understand how I can become, in this case, a cybersecurity analyst, or how can I be, any number of roles that these pathways are leading to. And so in New York City, Future Ready NYC has developed a pathway strategy of using the registry to articulate those high school courses, their connection points, the competencies of those high school courses, the connections they have with industry recognized credentials, the associations they have with the CUNY college courses in which learners can obtain credit for prior learning for those high school courses, and the occupational information for New York City about the earnings and employment prospects for those roles. So all of that information that I just described covers like many different documents. I wrote 6, but there might be more from multiple organizations. All of that information is available in an app on one page through all the double clicking that a person could do to see the layers of detail and information needed for a variety of needs. One of the innovations Credential Engine has made just this year has been we've had the pathway viewer for a while, but we now offer it uh, as a widget so that if you've created a pathway and you would like it displayed on your organization's website, you can control the look and feel of it, the colors, the spacing, the icons, the logo, to have it fit within the context of your website, your offerings. And there are many organizations that are working through building out those connection points. It all begins with publishing. This is sort of a very advanced case of multiple organizations benefiting from publishing. But I wanted to highlight it as a potential future destination for any institution that could insert their offerings into a longer term set of career goals for students in your region. Okay, so those were the success stories, and I feel like we've covered a heck of a lot of ground. What I'd like to do, though, is to just maybe highlight a couple of the steps that I think we'd like to bring to your attention as things you could do, and then we'll have a little time for some questions and go a layer deeper here. So one, let me just say, if you are involved in CBE, one of the first things you could do is just make sure that you've defined actually the competency statements themselves, and that those are agreed upon and well documented. Some organizations, have worked towards that goal, but um, haven't developed a business process to reify or to document the set of competencies for their particular offerings. It could be at the credential level. Some organizations have it at an organization level, but it could be programs, courses, units, what have you. So that's the first thing. And then what we'd like to highlight is use the existing processes you have to make those competencies publicly available. And that could be a variety of places and ways. It could be your website, it could be your catalog tools. you know, I don't know why I put training manual in here, but there's a variety of mechanisms at your disposal right now to make that information publicly available. Um, you'll learn in doing that work that there's a process for updating that content with wherever it goes. If it's a catalog, it probably goes through a registrar's office. If it's your main website, there might be a marketing department involved, and there's a contact, and there's a person whose responsibility is to make sure that the content on that in that place is up to date and accurate, and is regularly updated when a business process completes that says it should be updated here. That person is an absolute key resource to you because they also have the ability to add that information to the credential registry as another component of that work. And so we'd ask you to learn more about that, charge those roles with those responsibilities, connect them with our organization. Happy to help make that happen. We have a point here about publishing competencies to the registry. We'll have a link in the chat for you to sign up to have consulting for that purpose. Happy to help with that work. And then once the data are published, there's all of these linked open data possibilities, and different institutions are driven at different rates on different use cases. So it's not like if the ones we highlighted here are the only set, but they may have connected with you, and happy to help drive that work forward. Okay, Emily, how did we do?
Yeah, we're doing great. I'd
Yeah.
love to, as we all think about these action items and how they uh, do or do not fit your particular use case or position at the organization you sit in, I want to just say two quick things. The first is um, I want to expand the notion of competency-based education beyond the walls of traditional higher education. Though that's certainly a use case and a part of this whole ecosystem, I don't want anyone to feel like their competencies don't belong in the registries if they don't fit the mold of higher ed. This is also something that we like really want to bring employers in so that credentials that are being earned and validated through their employment workforce also live in the same system. Training providers, micro credential providers, all kinds of things fall under the heading of credentialing, and that these success stories highlight ways that this data can not only be used but can be built upon from the folks in this room. So we invite you to think really broadly about the notion of competency-based education and where competencies live inside credentials all across our world. The other is, as Jeff said, we'll put this link in the chat, and we definitely want to help you figure out where you are on this journey, but also what are the easiest and most supported ways we can help you so that you're part of this movement and doing right by anyone that you're helping to build competencies so that they can have a more expansive and like ability to use those competencies and leverage them out in the world. I'd love to bring you all into the conversation though, as you know, everyone takes a chance to grab this QR code. And as you're thinking back over all those success stories that Jeff just walked through, the state reporting, the digital wallets, all that stuff, I'd love to hear from you in the chat, or again, you're welcome to come off mute. Which of those use cases speaks to you the most that you could see your institution plugging into one of those systems, building a version of one of those systems for yourself? Which one of them potentially piqued your interest as somewhere to investigate or to go next, either as a user or as potentially a participant or a builder of a system like that in the future? So I'd love to basically ask the question, where do you see yourself or your institution or organization in these success stories? So go ahead and put those in the chat. And if anyone wants to come off mute, they're more than welcome to as well. Thanks for making sure everyone could grab that link, Jeff. All right, I'm going to give us just a little bit longer of a teacher silence before we give you a few more reminders and then give you back some time. All right, well, I am really looking forward to any and all of you getting in touch with us either through the link that Jeff just shared, or please feel free to reach out to us individually to learn more about this, learn more about what it might mean for you and your particular organization. And again, any support you need on your journey towards competency publication and CTDL, we're very much here to help. Before we wrap, we also wanted to just remind everyone, and hopefully you're already a member of our C-BEN community, but membership in C-BEN, we want to make sure you get all of the information about all of the events like this one, like our conference CBE exchange that Brenda talked about at the beginning of this webinar. This is a really simple link to make sure you are signed up and part of the community. It's free and we want you to have access to all of the amazing stuff that membership comes with. So please make sure you're part of that. And thank you, Brenda, for making sure everyone's got the link to the conference. Again, hopefully all of you are joining us in November. So use those links. Please get in touch with any questions. And we really appreciate you taking almost an hour out of your day on a Tuesday to think about what are our responsibilities, what are our motivations, and what are our possibilities for making sure that there's a universe of high quality, accurate, open data that's behind all of the amazing work being done in skills and competencies. We're here to do right by all the people who are helping to build their skills and to recognize their skills. And we're really glad that you're here joining us. So thank you, everyone. Feel free if you do have a question, if you want to hang out, we'll hang out for a minute, but we really appreciate the attention and we really appreciate all the ways you're going to get in touch after this. Thanks again.